Hey folks, new video today. We're going to talk about the horn in a Triumph Spitfire. This one we're going to test in particular is my Mark III Spitfire. However, all Spitfires from 1976 and backwards should have virtually the same operation. In 1977, they moved to a new setup with the horn button on the steering column. So it's a little bit different, but the rest of them should pretty much all be the same. So we're going to break this into two pieces. We'll go over the mechanical function of the horn, and then we'll talk a little bit about the electrical functionality or electrical system, how it works. So if we come over to the car, right now I have the steering wheel off, as you can see. You'll see this brass ring right here in the center. That is connected electrically to a relay on the firewall, which also then connects to the horns. This brass ring is constantly powered with 12 volts. So if I ground it, the horn should sound. So I have one end of my probe here just on the steering wheel nut, which should provide a good enough ground. And then if I take the other end of my probe and I touch it to the brass ring, we should hear the horn sound. There we go. So by grounding that ring, that causes the horns to sound. So how does that ring get grounded? So walk with me. This little guy here, which you can see is extremely worn in my old car, is commonly referred to as a pencil. I'm actually going to grab a new one because you can see a little better the contacts. This guy rides on this center ring so that as you turn the wheel, it's constantly got contacts so you can sound the horn at any position of the wheel. So this guy actually comes up through the steering wheel, and they should all have this hole you see right there at about the 12 o'clock position. And forgive me, I'm doing this one-handed today. I forgot to charge up my good camera, so we're using the cell phone. But this pencil goes through here. So that far end of that touches that brass ring, which then gets 12 volts up to here. So if we had this in the car, all connected up, and I put a meter on that, I'd get 12 volts. If I put a test lead on that and then jumped it across to a ground, the horn would sound. So we've got the steering wheel in place. We've got the 12 volts coming up to here. How do we complete the circuit and make the horn sound? Well, that's done by this mess here. This is the exploded guts of the horn button. This is what it's supposed to look like when you get it. This is brand new. I just got it from the Roadster factory. This is what the inside of it looks like because this thing kind of exploded on me when I took it out of the car. So what happens is that I'm going to use the new one here for a quick demo. We mentioned this pencil over here. When we put the horn button in, this brass contact makes contact with the brass pencil. So then we've got 12 volts going to here. When we push the horn button in, it compresses the spring here. So this would be our horn button. It compresses the spring, and this knob here makes contact with this knob here, which is connected to that. So when we make contact here, 12 volts comes up, makes contact with this. The brass part of this disc is touching this spring. It rides right on top of the spring. And again, apologies doing this one-handed. This spring, as you can see, when I get that turned around, comes out down here. It's right here. When it's in here, that spring is making contact with the inside of the metal housing for the horn. That creates a ground. So when we push the horn button, we're creating a circuit. So we're taking the 12 volts that came here through that brass ring, and we're completing the circuit by grounding it into here. And that's what sounds the horn. So if we take the new horn, and again, one-handed, sorry guys, and we take our continuity meter, and we put one on there. Let me see if I can stand this camera up quick so we can do this with 2 hands. Okay. So if we put probes on here, so here's your, switch it around so it's not confusing. Here's your 12 volts coming in. Here's your ground. Now you notice there's no beep right now because there's no continuity. If I push down on the horn, which I can't do that way. If I push down on the horn, sorry I don't have really good contact here, but there you go. Every time I push the horn, push, it's completing the circuit between this brass ring and the ground. So that causes the circuit to go live and the horn to sound. So the curious thing is, why the relay? Why do we use a relay to sound the horn? Well, got a little more show and tell set up over here. This is my 12 volt power supply, just simple Amazon rig. This is an old horn. I don't even think it's a Triumph horn. It's a just a generic horn that I got in a box of parts. So we're going to take, as you already heard, I had the output on. We're going to take the positive and the ground for the horn, and we're going to feed it 12 volts. Now when I feed it 12 volts, keep an eye on the amperage meter here to see how much it's drawing. Apologies, this is a little bit loud. I'll only keep it on for a few seconds. Okay, there you go. You saw that it drew about 3 amps. So rather than send 3 amps through this, what Triumph did, and what probably most other makers do, is they put a relay in place. So a relay is a remote switch, a remotely activated switch. So this is a very, very simple diagram of what that relay is. This box exists over here on the firewall of the car. So it's right there. So what happens here? The battery, so 12 volts, comes into the relay. The horns are connected to the relay. And the power for the button that goes through that pencil, through the brass ring, is connected on this side of the relay. This side of the relay is a signal. It's a low voltage signal. So all it does is when I provide ground and complete that circuit, it sends a signal to the relay to close this connection, which gives the horns close to direct access to the battery power. So they can pull that 3 amps without running through here and melting plastic or, shocking the heck out of somebody that if it gets grounded incorrectly. So that's how electrically it works. The 12 volts is constantly available all the way up to this guy, right? So we've got the brass ring over here on the car. That gets connected to the pencil. The pencil comes through the steering wheel. It's isolated in there, so it's not grounding. Pencil actually has a plastic sheath around it. So only this end and this end are live. So you've got 12 volts, brass ring to this end to the horn button, and it just sits there. And it's got 12 volts just sitting there, but it can't do anything. It can't activate the relay because it doesn't have a ground. There's nowhere for that 12 volts to go until you push in on the horn button. When you push in on the horn button, you complete the circuit, and the 12 volts can go from here, out through here, and ground into the steering column. So when this is in here, like so, you can see that ring would connect with the steering column. And once that circuit is activated by pushing the button, then we've got current. Once we have current, it tells the relay, hey, you can close this connection. You know, we've got current now, so you're normally open when nothing's going on. You've got nothing going, nothing connecting these two. As soon as I sense current on this side, go ahead, close that connection. And since it all happens at, you know, electrical speed of light type stuff, it's pretty much instantaneous. As soon as you push this button, you're going to hear the horns go. And that's pretty much how it works. I hope this was helpful. I had to puzzle through this myself a little bit. I'm going to post a link in the description to this, to a much better diagram than I have here in my freehand style that I found on the Triumph experience. I want to make sure that the person who wrote that gets full credit for it or created that. But that's pretty much how the horn button in a Triumph Spitfire up until about 1977, or sorry, up until 1976. In 1977 they changed. That's how it works. They're pretty much all the same. The outer design here might be a little different. The later models had a big rubber thing here. Cosmetically they look different. On the inside, pretty much the same. They all go from the brass ring to the pencil, from the pencil to the back of the button, from the back of the button to the ground, triggering the relay, which causes the horns to sound. As soon as you break this ground, the signal stops, and because this is a normally open relay, it opens back up and your horns stop. So that's it. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment on the video, and I'd be happy to help answer them. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.